executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Zoom is being utilized for this meeting. In case of technical issues, meetings will be uploaded to the city website as soon as possible after this meeting. We will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom. Many members, city council members, and staff are participating from remote locations, practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting by use of Zoom as noted in the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak to the Climate Action Committee may do so during public comment or may comment on agenda items during the discussion of each item and must be logged into Zoom. Anyone using abusive, vulgar, offensive, threatening, or harassing language, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups will be muted and removed from the meeting. Please do not abuse this new way to provide public comment. All right, that's the official stuff. I guess, Carrie, would you start taking roll, please?
Sure, absolutely. Sunali Sikand?
Here.
Thank you. Woody Hastings?
Here.
Argus Brent? I do not see Argus here yet. Ambrosia Thompson?
Present.
Thank you. Everett Fernandez?
Here.
Sarah Gurney, and I did just get a note from her saying she's going to be about 10 minutes late. Jerry Glazer. I do not see Jerry. Alex Goodman. Don't see Alex. Dina Allen.
Yes.
Thank you, Dina. Joshua Somane.
Yes, here, thank you.
Thank you. Kenna Lee.
Kenna is on vacation.
Correct. Thank you. Lisa Pierce.
Here.
And Debbie Burns.
Here.
All right. And so you do have a quorum. We have more than a
Great.
quorum.
Thanks. Lisa, did you have something inspiring to?
Well, this is something that Steve just forwarded to me right before we started, and it's just some good news. It looks like Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer just reached a deal, and I guess they voted or decided to spend $370 billion in energy and climate spending. So,
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know much about it at all, but thanks, Steve, for the heads up.
Okay. Wow. If we can get Manchin on board, that'll loosen a lot of things up. Okay, I will review action items from our previous meeting. Nothing too demanding on that front. Reminder that the grant writing proposal had been approved by the city, and that sort of an ongoing invitation for working groups to put forth proposals or recommendations either for grants or projects to fund by grants. The RCPA has a call to action survey available online that's worth checking out. We recommended the adoption of the climate action framework by the city council, which they have done. Huzzah. There is also a Sebastopol bike survey results are available online. Woody is bringing a couple of things to our agenda today, and we had the climate action committee report to the city council last week. So that was our action items from previously. At this time, we're open to any comments from members of the public regarding items not on the agenda. Is anybody who's on hand wishing to say something? What's that? Okay, Zeno, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. I talked to a number of members of your committee, and they mentioned that they were thinking of retiring soon. And this reminded me that this committee never adopted term limits. I think we talked about that in the beginning, but it wasn't followed through.
But I'm not correct, actually. Sorry to interject, but we did discuss that subject, and people in general chose 2 or 3 year terms. I don't know if there's an official roster.
Right. So let me finish my concern. My concern is that people leave together, and that this committee doesn't have enough overlap and institutional knowledge left if we do this in an irregular way. So I would, as a member of the community, I would like this committee to adopt a schedule for when people step back, and the city council can give some directions in that regard. The other thing is that You have been experiencing in the news a lot of news about Europe and climate impacts. And this reminded me that we don't really have a working group for adaptation. Yeah, we're heavy on like mitigation, but all these impacts of climate change that are baked in and that make climate change, in my and other people's opinion, a 300, 400 year old long crisis. It's not just something that will disappear with emissions. It's already baked into the atmosphere and the sea, and it will have continuing impact. So I would like to see a working group looking at adaptation in Sebastopol. There are some actions around adaptation, but they haven't really been coordinated and looked at in a wider framework. So that's my public comment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Zeno. Yeah, so folks know, Ken and I have been talking a little bit about anticipating the potential turnover of members at the end of this year. We had all sort of agreed to do a yearly renewal or reconsideration, which would be essentially next January. We anticipate doing a couple of sort of group focusing and forward-looking activities this fall or so. And certainly folks are going to be welcome to retire if they're feeling maxed out. But we would suggest that when people reach the point where they're planning on stepping back from the committee, that maybe they start looking for friends or associates who they might recommend to step in toward the committee. So that's just one way for us all to think ahead in that term. As it stands now, Ken and I are planning on sticking around for at least the next year. And we would be overjoyed to have any of the rest of you who have been here so far to continue. But we understand that folks do have other obligations in their lives. Okay, oh, there's Jerry as well. All
And
right.
Joshua, if I may, on that, so council did approve term limits.
Mhm.
And actually, we had gone through and we did assign everyone 2 or 3 year term limits. I think Jerry was 1 year, but then he decided to stick around for another one. So everyone is assigned 2 year, which would be ending this year. And I can get a list out to folks so if you're on the 2 year versus the 3 year schedule, which would be next year, and then you will need to reapply if you want to be reappointed. And those will be coming out early fall in terms of those whose terms will be ending and they would need to reapply.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. So let me repeat back just to make sure I understood for clarification. Anybody who signed up for 2 year would be retiring this next coming January, and they will get a reminder in the fall either to consider applying again or appoint a successor or something like that.
Yeah, and I will actually try and find the roster that says whose term expires when, so that you all know. And I think the only ones that aren't along with that is the 2 council members, because that's either the RCPA rep and the zero waste rep. And so those 2, if those are reassigned with council assignments, which they do in December, I believe, then those reps would change automatically as part of that process. And then the planning commission liaison wouldn't expire this year either.
Okay, great. Sunali, did you have something on this front?
Yes, I don't know if it was already mentioned. Sorry if I missed it, but I just wanted to share that we've also been compiling, I don't know where we are with it, but different protocols or different just committee information and knowledge so that it can be transferred more easily to the next members.
Great. Yeah, point well taken. We are beginning to have a sense of procedure and effectiveness here. All right. Moving on then to statements of conflict of interest. Does any members have any conflict of interest with items on today's agenda? Not seeing any hands. Thanks for that. All right, planning department report, please.
Thank you, Joshua. So Yeah, so the climate action framework was adopted at the last meeting, at the last city council meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Gurney and all the others. The climate action committee duties were discussed as part of the informational report that Kenna and Joshua gave, and that is actually, council basically said, yes, that's great, but we need an action item. So we are returning with a quick item. It's actually on the consent calendar at the August 2nd meeting so that they can approve those formally, and then those will adjust the duties for the CAC. There is also a temporary professional staff description, job description on the consent calendar as well. And what I'm hoping to do with that, it would be for anyone in the city to use. What I'm hoping to do with that is be able to have a part-time sustainability coordinator, since we have a staff vacancy. We'll need to recruit for that. We'll do that very quickly. And I know at least one person who's interested in that job. So, and so that would be, that's on the consent calendar. And the other two items on, well, other two of planning department's items, I'm sorry, on next Tuesday's agenda. One is the Habitat for Humanity townhomes across from Safeway. And so that's a great project that has had not a lot of controversy, but it's moving forward to council for final approval. And then the draft housing element for the city is out. It's in a couple of places. One, it's we have a housing element webpage on the planning department webpage. And it's also under last night's planning commission meeting. But the same presentation will be given to city council that we gave to planning commission last night. And that is trying to get feedback from the public. It does include energy conservation programs and assistance with, we're trying to look for programs with assistance for rehabilitation for homeowners of existing structures, as well as adopting Cal Green Tier 1 is within that document, since this group is so close to, has basically recommended the Tier 1, and that's the second part of the of the reorganization of the other parts of the code that are still under discussion with Steve Brown, but we did, I did include Cal Green Tier 1 as what the city would be adopting. That's in the draft housing element. And so that's compatible with, obviously, with what this group is recommending. And if you are interested in that, like I said, that'll be next Tuesday at the city council meeting. Other things going on, staff is looking at how to go about with the grant writer. Actually, that temporary professional staff description can also work for that as a job description. So that's kind of twofold why that description is going to council. So we are working on that. So yes, if you do see opportunities, definitely let us know. The website renewal is in progress. And one of the things that will be happening with that is kind of a complete revamp of the sustainability and conservation component of it. I have been working with Holly directly on that, our PR person. I may pull in Phoebe, and while she's still here in her last half month or so, to help strategize on that. If any of you, the others, are interested in kind of helping take a look at that from a perspective of the community, I'd appreciate that. And just let me know either in the chat here today or send me a quick email. The other big news, and this actually goes to Zeno's question about adaptation. The local hazard mitigation plan has been accepted and approved by FEMA. So we're now also eligible for FEMA grants. So yes, and Councilmember Gurney, you're the first to hear. Council probably, I still have to write that email to get out to all the council members. So, but that is fully adopted now. We will be moving forward with the general plan amendment to incorporate that into our safety element, but that is at least done on the Fed side, which is a big deal. So, and then We had a wonderful art sculpture opening last Wednesday for the library sculpture and last Saturday for the Ives Park sculpture. And Joshua was there with his sculpture. It was great to see him in person. He did not recognize me because I had my mask on. Until I kind of pulled it down a little bit, but that was a great time ahead for all, and congratulations, Josso.
All right. Thanks very much for the good news on that many fronts there. Any questions or points on that subject before we move on? Okay, city council reports. Anything to add, Sarah? And
Yes,
Sarah.
I'll just, hi, everybody. Thank you. Sorry to be late. I want to add, Joshua, about December. I won't be here in December. I'm retiring at the end of this term. I want to make sure everybody here knows that. So you will have somebody new. As to council activities at our last meeting, we had an excellent report from Kenna. I'm sorry she's not here to hear my compliment. Also, Phoebe did a wonderful presentation and her work was complimented and adopted. We also adopted contracts for West County Community Services to manage Park Village to provide homeless community outreach. We also continued the contract with Holly Hansen, our community outreach person or coordinator. In addition, we spent about 2.5 hours talking about Head West, the activity down at the Barlow. And they did get a little extension onto the public street and a limitation onto Pink Lady, which is their private street, but all things continue with that activity. We approved the police department's request for per diem employment continuing with Tracy Peters, who just retired, and also concerning their police technician. I think that's the person who gives the parking tickets. So be on the lookout. The UUT measure is coming back. I believe it will be on consent. I was glad to have Steve there to make his comments as to 2024 potentially. And there was some wording that was just left off in the staff report that needed to be corrected. So it's mostly a clerical deal. And Carrie, if I've left anything out, please add your remarks. Is that good?
I think you got it. Usually pick up the things that I forget or that aren't in my wheelhouse. So thank you.
Well, and there was some long discussion, but I don't want to go into those details here because this group has its own work to do and engage in. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Sarah. Woody, do you have something on this front?
I just wanted to add to the conversation about the approval of the framework, which was that last week I was listening to KRCB and I'm popping into the chat right now. KRCB did a feature on it and there were some great quotes in there from both Phoebe and Kenna. So I just wanted to share that with everybody in case you missed it.
Nice.
That's all.
Great, thank you. Okay, unless there are any further questions or comments on things we've covered so far, we'll move on to our regular agenda items for today's meeting. The first one is Woody is bringing back the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty recommendation. I hope everybody had a chance to check out the website and the attachment there. And we are today seeing if we can kind of essentially vote to approve a recommendation. But first, any further discussion or questions? Woody, feel free to control the floor for this segment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Joshua. So right, at our last meeting, we quickly reviewed the website of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, and everyone agreed to put together a communication to the City Council suggesting that City of Sebastopol sign on. So the attachment in today's agenda is this letter that provides some background and some links that help bring folks that want to know some of the details right to some of the key pages on the website. Something I've heard in the intervening 2 weeks since our last meeting was that there is a plan for a big push for this fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty to happen between now and the Conference of the Parties, COP27 in Egypt in November, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, CONFAB. So this should be getting a heightened attention over the coming months. And so I just, think if anyone has any comments or questions about the letter or wants to make some edits, we could do that. I would hope that we could get it to the City Council today. One more thing I'll just add is that I did review it with reflection through the environmental or equity matrix that we put together. And I had a hard time finding our actual copy of the matrix. So I'm going to work on cleaning that up and making it more available. But this whole effort was originated out of the Pacific Islanders that are frontline communities that are facing really, the end of their livelihoods or way of life, because their islands are rapidly being overcome with rising sea level. So anyway, I'll stop there and just see if there are any questions. Jerry.
Just one comment. Alex took the time to put that one form together, which you guys asked me to use for the REACH code, for things to come back to the committee for recommendations, etc. And I think it was a good idea. I'm not too sure why we're not continuing to use the form.
I did not think of that. I guess I wasn't. Yeah, I'd be happy to use that, fill that out, and I guess it would be after the fact, but
the rationale for it, and I think Alex did a good job on in fleshing this out, was that a recommendation coming from the committee, normally that gets passed through staff to the council. At times, staff will have comments about it or positions on it, and it would be great for the committee to know that before it shows up at the council. And he actually included all of that in the format. So I thought that was a good idea.
Sounds like a good idea to me too. It wasn't on my radar screen to use that, so I didn't think of it. So, and I'm not sure where I would find it. So, if it could be shared with me, probably.
I sent you a copy of the Word version of it and outline so you could use it
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, for this, I'm sorry, I just didn't catch it.
That's okay, Woody. It's still a new sort of procedure here, but I think Jerry's point is well taken, that we want to move towards a standard format for these sorts of things, just to grease the wheels.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think yeah.
Okay. I wonder if Sarah, if you had a chance to review Woody's attachment there, and if you feel that as it stands, it's in good shape for submitting to the city council, or whether you might request a sort of a reformatting for passing it along.
I'm wondering, Woody, would it be okay with you if I read it either during this meeting or separately?
I mean, that's fine.
Okay,
And,
I just haven't looked at it yet, and I don't want to hold things up.
That's fine. And, just, I mean, for everyone, this is what I put together. I'm not, this is just a suggestion. So whatever format or adjustments need to be made to make it work, I'm fine with that.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well, from the facilitation standpoint, I'm wondering if we, and I guess I'll ask this question to Woody. Woody, does this feel urgent such that we should try to move it along today in a what's essentially a draft format, or would it make sense to reformat and come back to the next meeting? And
I
see you in a
think.
second, Jerry.
Well, I see a hand. So maybe go to Jerry again before I.
Yeah, there's one other thing that I'd like to see included in this, because we discussed this the last time around too. In supporting this and signing on, the question I asked the last time was, what is it that we would do as a result of having signed this besides signing it and supporting the concept? And as a community, we probably should be doing certain things. It would be nice if the document included a little section that says, and these are the things that we could do.
That may be the case. I don't. This is the action that's being proposed is signing on to the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. There's really no other obligation or expectation among signatories. We could come up with stuff if we want, I guess.
Well, but the question I have is, if you're signing on to a treaty, the reason you sign on to a treaty or any agreement is you're not just supporting it, you're signing on to it. And so it says you're going to do something. So what's the thing that we're going to do other than saying, oh, we support it? That's a different thing than signing on to the treaty itself, I believe.
Well, we've already done some of it, Jerry, by the gas station ban.
And that's fine, Josh. I just think that it would be good to include it with the recommendation. These are things we've done and things that we would look at doing in the future as well as a result of our position. And this is why we should sign on to the treaty.
Tell you what, how about we go about it like this? Because what I was going to say was that, yes, putting it off another 2 weeks is fine. It's not so urgent that we can't do that. And in the course over the next 2 weeks of using the template, perhaps that has places in it, or if it doesn't have places in it, where you can sort of put in there what it is you're doing that's, you know, proactive on this, that we, whoever wants to pitch in, can add that piece of it. Does that make sense?
Nicely said.
And I see Sonali's hand up, and then Sarah. Sonali, your hand is up.
Sorry. Yeah. I think you guys discussed it. I was just going to ask if Jerry had any suggestions on what some of those actions could be, because I agree with him. That would be great.
Good. Well, between now and 2 weeks from now, anyone that wants to pitch any of those kind of things to me that we could sort of list as, hey, here's what Sebastopol's doing, I'd be happy to add that in. Sarah?
Thank you. With delay, I just want to remind everybody, the next council meeting is August 2nd, and the one following that will be September 3rd or 4th, whatever that Tuesday is, because we don't meet the second time in August. So if there is delay beyond that, or that calendar is really full in September, then this will be heard either, you know, the second meeting in September or October. So just keep in mind there's a backlog of work, and I think this might be a kind of big discussion item. Certainly this group will want to come to discuss it when it's on agenda.
Right. Well, I certainly will. And I would say, I heard the month October. I mean, I think that October, if we wanted to be sure that we're on there by the time it gets shared around in the lead up to the COP27, then that's a little bit late. So hopefully it can somehow happen in more September-ish. Anyway, Lisa.
Yeah, I would just hope we don't get too bogged down with procedure that it's actually stopping us from doing something important. So I would be in favor of just going ahead with it personally, but that's just me. Thanks.
Thank you. Joshua?
Yeah, just speaking personally as a committee member unrelated to facilitation, I frankly see the approval and endorsement of the treaty as one action and suggestion of more actions for the city that are in line with the treaty as a separate action and something that's already part of our purview. So I'm not really in favor of ganging those two together if that's going to slow this down. It's essentially just endorsing the treaty. Our job as the Climate Action Committee is already to make suggestions to the city about what the city can do.
Thanks for that. I just offer that I'm kind of in agreement with you. This is this is a act in and of itself, or an action in and of itself to sign on. There's no other, as I said, no other obligation or expectation for adding anything. So anyway, Zeno, I see your hand.
Yeah, I think Jerry made a good point. If this is a treaty, signing up to a treaty makes commitment. So at least one should explain to the city council what the new commitments are of the city council by signing up to this treaty.
Thank you. You know, this is just making me realize there's a wording issue here, I think, because the city wouldn't be signing on to the treaty. And right there in the heading, it says, recommend to sign on to the treaty. This would be to sign on to support the nations of the world signing on to a treaty. So maybe there's a distinction that needs to happen there. This is about the city supporting the idea of an international agreement to phase out fossil fuels specifically. So I think there is an error here that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, but then are we recommending to the United States government to sign on to the
Yes.
treaty?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, yeah. Yes. It's
California, or what? On
no,
what level?
no. It's not subnational. This is national. So this is about the U.S. and other nations. It's really to the U.S., but to all nations. Really, we're little Sebastopol, the mouse that roared, saying, "Hey, we want all the nations of the world to get together and agree to
Yeah,
phase
so
out
maybe
fossil
then
fuels."
in that case, what you send to the city council is a recommendation that they recommend to the United States government to sign on to the treaty or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a change needed. And actually what the non-proliferation treaty folks say is endorsing the effort. So I can rephrase it and put it in the correct template for 2 weeks from now.
Great. Thanks for your flexibility and understanding on that front, Woody. Do we have any further questions or comments on this subject at this time? Okay, we'll revisit it again at the next time. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Our next agenda item is also from Woody and is about a recommendation of, if I'm understanding correctly, we are asking the council to endorse SB 833. So similar sort of situation here. But Woody, how would you like to bring this forth?
Similar situation in that we are signing on. It's this committee recommending to the city council to sign on in support of SB 833. And SB 833 is a piece of legislation from Senator Bill Dodd that would. It's a bill that would have the state of California provide resources and tools to local governments to do both energy resilience planning and energy resilience facility deployment. And the question always comes, well, what about the money? There is a parallel budget component that was succeeded in the current budget. So there's close to $1 billion, $200 million for planning grants and 800 million for deployment. So and again, this is all around community energy resilience. So this is in the face of wildfires, how do we go about technicalities and whatnot of deploying resilience microgrids, resilience hubs, community energy facilities at critical facilities, fire stations, things like that can keep the lights on during a grid disruption and the like. So the letter puts it succinctly. It's that's again, this is a piece of text to say yes or no to. You can see the the logo collection there of the folks that have been signed on for quite a while. The letter has been out there since March, so it's really just signing on to this, and it'll be coming up. This is a truncated legislative session because of the election year, so it'll all be over at the end of August, and it'll go to the assembly floor sometime. It's going to go to the Appropriations Committee, which is a sort of, it'll be a quick process. It's not a very public process. But then it'll go to the Senate floor, and it'll be important to be on there by the end of August when it goes to the Assembly floor, excuse me. And I see, so that's pretty much it. Joshua?
Yeah, my question is mostly just about the time sensitivity on that legislative timeline. If we are asking the city to get a word in, it sounds like this is maybe a little more urgent or timely.
Absolutely, yeah. This really, I've actually, I think, brought this up in the past, but we haven't, maybe I didn't push hard enough, whatever. We didn't really take it up. And the bill has been doing very well in the legislature. It's been getting a unanimous passage in both houses, so it's been doing very well. But it ain't over till it's over, right? And yes, this needs to go ASAP to the city council for their approval decision to sign on. Yeah.
Let's see. That being the case, just to check in with Carrie and Sarah, if I'm understanding correctly, there's just one city council meeting in August and it's next week. Is it sort of feasible for us to say that we approve a recommendation today? Is it feasible that this gets addressed in August, or do you think that the council is not in a position to address it until September?
Carrie and I are both doing this.
Well, I'm going to say I don't think it's possible because the agenda has already been finalized. Final staff reports have already been numbered and sent to Mary, and she's working to try to post it today because I believe well, I know I'm out tomorrow on vacation, so I wouldn't be able to write it, but it's also would disrupt that whole process, unfortunately. I would aim for the first meeting in September. I think there are a number of items on there, but I know some of them are mine. And maybe one of those could be pushed a little bit, the level of service report. It just needs to be done sometime this year. That would be my recommendation if that's possible within the legislation.
So, however,
Sarah's
Woody,
hand. Yeah, I see your hand.
at our last meeting, I put on an emergency item, and that was a letter of support for SB 982, which was the one that would allow the creation of, I'm just going to say for simplicity, financial districts related to climate action so that the RCPA could then seek funding.
Right.
We did it last time because I found out about it the day after the agenda came out, and there was a hearing before our next meeting. So if the timeline has that sense of urgency, when the next committee hearing or presentation on this is, and it has to then be heard on August 7th, I can do a request for an emergency item. Takes a 4/5 vote. And it worked last time.
Yeah, I am glad to hear it work because that's also a bill. Good bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I just heard you say September, Kari, and again, it's all going to be over by August 30th. So I guess this is coming in quite a bit late here, not recognizing the built-in slowness of things. So let's go to Dina.
So I was just wondering, as a backup, the same letter you would recommend for the city council to sign, or whatever way we endorse this, can you just have it come from our committee?
So
and I know we're not the city, but just a question.
So what's being asked is just to read the text of the letter here, and it's a yes or no to sign on or not, and the city's logo would be added. There's no, I'm not planning to draft any other communication. When all of these logos that have signed on, they were basically shared the text here and asked whether or not they wanted to sign on, and it's in that it makes it easy for folks. Actually, you don't have to put together a written document of your own or anything like that. You can if you want, but this is designed sort of for ease of things. Lisa.
Yeah, I guess we don't really have an official logo as a committee, so maybe we can't do that, but that's,
But Lisa, no, this would be the city's logo.
no,
This
no,
would-
I know, but piggybacking on what Dina just said, if there was something that could, if we weren't able to get it through the council, is there something we could tag on as our committee endorsing it? But it sounds like maybe there's an option with the emergency method that Sarah suggested, so that's hopeful. Yeah, I'm just a little concerned about us running into similar issues with the one that we just discussed before, because it sounds like it's getting pushed down the road and maybe might run into a time crunch. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you for that. And I think Sarah again.
Yes, I'll just need clear direction from this committee. If y'all endorse and want the council to sign on as a sponsor, that would need to be a clear direction to me, and I'll ask to put it on as an emergency item.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that because I think at this point that is probably what's needed. So do any folks have concerns about the substance of the letter, Jerry?
No, not of the letter of the bill. I just want to make sure it's clear. So if the bill was passed, then the city then does have certain responsibilities that it needs to assume as a result of what the bill says cities have to do, correct?
No, not at all.
No, okay. Explain that then.
Sure, the city doesn't have to do anything. This would create opportunities at the state level that local governments at their discretion could take advantage of or not. Sebastopol being Sebastopol and us being us, I bet you we will do our best to take advantage of the opportunities to develop community energy resilience.
Okay, so is it direction to the CEC then? Is that correct?
It's the California Energy Commission is the main agency that would be involved in providing the resources. Yes.
Okay, any further questions or comments on this subject, or are we at a point where anybody would care to offer a motion on the subject?
Lisa.
So I would like to make a motion that our committee recommends to the city council that we support SB 833. I don't know if that's all I need to say to make a motion or if there's more to it.
Let's hope
Kind of
so.
new at this.
Yeah, and I'd like to second that, and basically that the city would sign on to recommending support for the bill.
Great.
It's too
Thanks.
bad it's not in the format that Alex put together.
And any other questions or concerns with respect to the motion that is on the floor before we go to a vote? I'm not seeing any questions or comments. All right, at this time, I would like to call for a vote on the motion of recommending that the City Council endorse or support SB 833 with the pre-existing letter. All in favor, please raise your hand via the electronic means for a moment so that we can count them. I am seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The motion carries with 9 votes in support. Please go ahead and lower your hands if you have voted that. Are there any votes in opposition to the motion at this time for the record? Not seeing any. Is there anybody who is choosing to abstain from the vote and wishes to note that? All right, I believe that our motion has carried. So thanks very much for your
Joshua, I all of
Yes.
a sudden saw Sunali's hand just a flash and now it just went back down. So I'm not
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just slow on this end. It was a yes for me.
Okay.
I tried raising my hand too to approve, and my screen kept scrambling and I couldn't catch up.
Okay, that's wonderful because those are the
Count me in.
two members that I did not see their hands raised. And I was going to note, since they didn't raise their hand, they've sort of automatically abstained. But thank you both for clarifying.
Great.
So then it passes unanimously.
We are unanimous now. So if Carrie and Sarah, I believe you are in position to understand what we're after here, and I'm assuming you can tap Woody if you need a little extra assistance on carrying it through. But as of now, I believe we have completed this item. Unless any lingering concerns, Woody.
I just wanted to thank you all for the discussion and the input and working through it. And I want to just say, especially to Sarah, I'll commit to being there at that council meeting when this comes up to answer any questions that might arise.
Great. Thanks again, everybody. Always nice to get something done there. All right, our next item on the agenda is an update on the climate action framework from Phoebe. I would like to propose, and I'm not sure what the Zoom equivalent of a round of applause is, but I just want to offer that for the City Council adopting the climate action framework through Phoebe's able stewardship. This is a process that, we have been looking at as a committee for over 1.5 years at this point, and it's just want to honor it as a nice milestone that this document has been lovingly crafted and assembled, and the city is going with it. And it also gives us something to do in the seasons ahead as a way to focus our efforts. So with that, I will let Phoebe bring us up to date.
Thank you, Joshua, and thank you to Councilmember Gurney and all of the council for supporting the framework, and to you all for providing your feedback and participating in its development. So yeah, you've heard, that's the main update, which you've now heard several times. Framework was adopted, so that final version was in the packet for today. It's also on the city website. I'll put it in the chat so you can take a look. And the press release just went out yesterday, but as Woody mentioned, it was already picked up by some local news before that, so that's great. The next steps for me at least is organizing all the research and resources I've found to try and make it easy for you all to carry on with that. So I am working on putting together those materials and that'll help with the work plan development next phase. So thanks to everyone, and that's it for my update.
Great, thanks. Phoebe, how much longer are you around? Just a few weeks, right?
Yes, the Civic Spark Fellowship ends August 12th.
Oh, 2 weeks. Okay, very soon. Anything else that you need from us to help tie the bow on it, or do you feel like everything's in good shape?
Yeah, I mean, I am working on, as I said, putting together sort of those, all my work products and resources, and I'll probably be scheduling meetings with at least probably you and Kenna, Joshua, and with Carrie, and also with the energy working group to pass off the microgrid project, which didn't get very far, but I'll be passing off those resources to you all. So yeah, just look out for any emails about that.
Great, thanks again. Will we see you at one more of these meetings, or are you sort of done before that?
No, I'll be at the next meeting at least.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, yeah, feel free to be in touch. It's been a real pleasure and honor to work with you. Thanks so much for that. All right. Our next space in the agenda, which we have about 35 minutes remaining of our allotted time, is open for working group reports. Now, I know I'm expecting to hear a couple of things from sequestration and outreach and education, but just to be clear, this is a time for any working groups to give us a little comment on what's been going on, anything that they've been doing or anything that they're looking forward to doing. So it's a time for us to check in with each other about the things that are going on in the wings and the sidelines. So please feel free. I will just take it by way of hands, and we'll work through it as we need to. Well, Dina, yes.
Well, you were probably going to say this, Joshua, that we have dates for the next 2 compost giveaways for the fall. We have September 3rd and October 1st. So those are the first Saturdays of those 2 months. And Public Works is on board, and Zero Waste Sonoma is on board, getting the compost to the same parking lot. So that's all good news. And this is not really my working group thought, but can I say something that just came up? Joshua, is it okay to take a minute?
Sure, yeah.
So just by a weird coincidence, we heard this story about the townhouses that are behind the Masonic Lodge. They've had a gas leak, and they were quoted for a really steep price to fix the pipes in their complex. And somehow somebody did a cost analysis and said that it would be much more for everybody to go all electric, but nobody could say who did the cost analysis and were they.
Dina, it looks like you're frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
PG&E just locked her out.
Yeah. Oh, you're back. We missed a little bit of that.
Oh, sorry. Well, hopefully I'm not repeating too much.
Cost analysis, sourcing.
Okay, yeah. So no one that we talked to could say where their cost analysis came from and if it was impartial and blah, blah, blah. So they went ahead and they're adding natural gas. And this seems to be a really big problem if we're trying to not add natural gas infrastructure and fixing. And it seems like a real opportunity to have better information and impartial analysis for folks that have this choice to make.
Okay, thank you. Good point. Alex, did you have something up? Alex? There he is.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just had to share about the education and outreach committee update. So I believe this is the appropriate time.
Definitely.
I'm just going to jump into it. And Debbie, feel free to jump in here if I miss anything.
Yeah.
Cool. So, well, I'll just start it off. We are looking into doing a news column for the Sebastopol Times, which is online. We're still determining what the frequency of that would be. Maybe once a month is kind of what our initial guess is. We have a couple pieces that we think are lined up, and we'd obviously need your guys' support and approval on that. What we'd also like to do is ask to see if it's if we feel like the other working groups could do one. We could make a schedule per se, and we could do once a month. We just rotate to share, and the education and outreach group or whoever's designated to do that will just kind of be the person that. Actually, I believe it was Dina who volunteered to kind of be the facilitator of that. Again, that's still just an idea we have. We can discuss more about that at the end of my share, but I just want to throw it out there as something that we're working on. We want to make sure we go through all the appropriate channels. And my form might be worthwhile for them, I'm not sure. I guess we're not really asking for city council approval, so unless we need that.
Well, we already got approved. We already have approval for it. So we have to run it through Carrie and Holly, but we can do it. So we've already
That's
put.
right. Thank you. Cool. Okay, great. So really what we need everybody's support on the Climate Action Committee to be able to, maybe just write an update or write a piece about your subgroup. Maybe, I guess it comes down to maybe about twice a year is probably what it comes out to about. So if we can do a vote at the end or give some thumbs up or something if that works for you guys. I don't know, Joshua, you might be one. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Tabling at the Gravantine Apple Fair. I believe that Kenna and Lisa are already volunteered for that. And I believe I shared the document that Phoebe had put together. I don't know if you guys got that, but it was the checklist for tabling. So just confirm if we got that. We're just trying to keep the documentation and logistics of tabling up for that.
Also, one quick thing on that, Lisa, if you find that there's anything that's not on the list, can you update it and give it back to us? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I was just wondering if there might be any other people, because it's, I believe it's 2 days, and that's kind of a lot of time to be sitting at the table.
Yeah, you know, we did have a conversation about this, and maybe we should let Alex finish, and then we can open
yeah.
up for
Sounds
debate.
good.
Well, no, the reason why is because, you know, there was some conversation in our working group about, is this really our best and highest value of getting the word out there? Because there's a lot of people from out of town that come to these events. So we have some other local events that we want to present to you, which Alex is going to get to, and maybe that would be a higher and better use for volunteer time. So just putting that out there, and we can, okay, go ahead, Alex.
I'm not sure I know what that is. Oh, Joshua, go ahead.
Sorry, just one quick interjection. Kenna is still coordinating, scheduling the tabling for the Gravantine Fair, and just wanted any people who were interested in putting some time into the tabling to email her on the side, and she can coordinate. So just that update.
Cool. Yeah, Debbie, you might have to help me out. I'm not sure, but on the other events. But yeah, so I'm coming into the update for the, for lack of a better word, art project. Junali, help me out with the name of that. I always forget it. We have a little bit of a slow implementation, but we've definitely got some momentum. There's 5 pieces being worked on. I believe 1 or more is almost complete. We're asking you guys to just share the idea with the community and see if there's anybody else interested from an art standpoint. You guys can reach out to us via email. We were thinking about, I believe there might be an announcement at Peacetown today to get some more interest and support. And that's all the update I have there. We had another idea to help roll out the framework. In a sense, essentially creating a book club for the climate action framework, or figuring out a way to help get community engagement and discussion about the framework, and getting local community groups together to discuss, or potentially just having discussions at like Copperfield Books, or like some sort of event where we really open it up to the public and share and present maybe the final framework, and really discuss ways, and maybe find ways that we can help integrate community members into our solutions and actions.
Can I jump in on that one, Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to jump
Absolutely.
in too. Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Jump all over it, Debbie. Go for it.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Go.
Okay.
I'm sure you're going to share what I was going to, yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the things we've really been feeling is you can have all this amazing, fantastic information, and if nobody's utilizing it or knows it exists, you know, what good is it? And so we've been really brainstorming on how we can even get the community to know we have a climate action committee. I asked my entire staff in Sebastopol, not one of them knew. None of them are on the city email, nor will they join the city email, because they just don't want more emails in their inbox. They actually get their information, they said, from posters downtown. But so we came up with this idea about how do we get people talking and just get the hum and the buzz going. Even if we don't get any volunteers or nothing happens, just to get people knowing that we're doing this, that it exists in our community, and maybe spark interest. And we're looking at creative ways. So we'd love to go to like schools and churches and places where people are gathering and get the climate conversation going. So our first launch we thought of was going to Copperfields. People are used to going to book signings. They have a very large email and a local venue where we can at least just their email list would be a huge amount of population in Sebastopol. So, you know, it really is, why are we, if we're doing all this work, we need more people involved. We need more buy-in. We need more people talking about it. So our other idea that we had, so we've been really brainstorming on how do we bring community together, you know, to have fun and education and cross-pollinate with, hey, we're here, we're the Climate Action Committee. So another thing we thought for the art project, the Upcycle Art Project, is because I'm fortunate and have a storefront in Sebastopol that we can utilize, and, you know, that's where people gather. I mean, honestly, the town square would be good as well, but, you know, people are walking around town. We thought if everybody on the Climate Action Committee, this is all part of our overall get the conversation going. So it's a few pronged. One would be, you know, the Copperfields idea, and schools and churches and, you know, people having tea together and talking about it. And the other one is if everybody on this committee, if we could choose a day where we could all bring 5 items or whatever from our house that we would otherwise throw away and meet in front of somebody. There's even a parklet there that we could use, or there we have space in front of our store, and we could make a sculpture for the Upcycle project together, and we could table there, get the people walking by, do a press release, take pictures, put it on social media, ways that we can be seen in public in our town with our community, to get the word out there on what we're doing, how to be involved, and yeah. So Sonali, do you want to jump in now? Did I hit the points?
You got more than what I would have shared. I think the only other piece is we wanted to invite the Climate Action Committee to maybe brainstorm one group that they could think of in their network and reach out to them and see if they wanted to hold a discussion group on the framework and see what they might want to implement of it and how they would want to contribute.
So I think that was, yes, Sonali, thank you. I think really what we're trying to do in our working group is, you know, you see the success of the compost, everybody loves it. You guys always hear me say this, and you're probably tired of it, but the, you know, community that plays together stays together. So we're trying to look for ways that we can bring people together, make it interesting, make it easy, give them something that they would be, you know, that they would enjoy while we're working on the, you know, on a biking route that we could do, like the Taco Tuesday in Santa Rosa and things like that, that are contributing to climate awareness, gaining more awareness in our community that we're here. And it would go back to what Zeno said in the very beginning. It's what happens when everybody's terms are up. Well, we got to get all these people excited and helping and involved, and know we're here and know that this is serious and it's conversation as a community we should be having.
Great. Thanks for all your insights and energy on that front. One suggestion is just that Phoebe did have a series of meetings with organizations around the town as part of the initial framework development. I'm assuming she's not going to have time to go back and check in with all those now that the framework is done, but that could be an easy way for outreach to sort of pick up some of that mantle, get back in touch with the groups that have already had a contact with it. I would like to acknowledge Ambrosia at this point, who's had her hand up for a while. I'm not sure if this is the same topic or a new topic, but please welcome.
So yeah, it's the same topic. I actually, because I do, well, I work for Recology. So we're out in the community, you know, passing out information about what's recyclable, what's compostable, what do you do with, you know, hazardous waste, all that good stuff. And every year we have done the Gravenstein Apple Fair, and I highly recommend going. There is a lot of folks who come from out of the area, but what it'll do is it'll still spark that conversation, and maybe other towns will, you know, follow suit. Maybe it inspires somebody else. So that's just my 2 cents. I think it's great. Also, you know, doing a Sunday farmers market once in a while. Those are all our local people there. So just some suggestions.
Thank you so much. Phoebe's been doing, people have been doing a lot of the farmers markets, and Kenna is doing the Gravenstein. But thank you so much, because yeah, getting the outreach out there is so important.
Definitely. Ambrosia, anything else to add? I just noticed your hand's still up. Great. Woody.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add something, which is that, you know, even at the Sebastopol Farmers Market, there's lots of folks from out of town, but it's still worth tabling there. The thing to do when you're tabling, and I do think that we should table at the Gravenstein Apple Fair, the first question you ask someone that approaches the table or that's within earshot is, "Hi there, do you live in Sebastopol?" You find out right away if they live in Sebastopol. Then it's up to you whether or not you want to spend time talking to, if they're from outside of Sebastopol, you can still talk to them, you can ask questions. 19 times out of 20, though, they'll just keep walking along. And so you can zero in. People will say, yeah, I live in Sebastopol. Well, have I got something for you? You know, so there's techniques to make it so that you're not really just spending a lot of time talking to somebody from Timbuktu. Just wanted to pitch that in.
I think we have so many ideas that we threw out as the working group. And just to clarify, Kenna is doing the Gravenstein. It's happening. We were just saying at our working group, like, what I feel like everybody here is getting pretty thin. Like Lisa's like, who else can do it? So we're just trying to think of, like, you know, where can we expend our energy? We want you guys to have steam for all these things that we want to do. But the Gravenstein Apple Fair is happening. But I guess we need buy-in from, you know, from you guys. If you, back to what Alex had said, you know, if you want to do the newsletter, honestly, 400 words is about the max that we need. So, you know, I don't know, Joshua, how to do this, but if we could go through what we're proposing and maybe take a vote of hands of, like, who would like us to move forward. And if we have enough people, we can. And if there's not enough interest, we could. Does that sound like a good idea, Joshua?
I'm not sure if we're there yet today, is my take on it. And I'm open to other points of view. What I would love to see is if the working group could just give us a little write-up on that, you know, just a little one-page summary. Here's the deal. Here's the frequency. Here's the number of words. Here's the editorial constraints. If we had just a quick little handout on what the frame of it is, and once we have a sense of the frequency, then I'm sure that working groups would be happy to write something up. We just need to know a little bit more about the particulars of it. And if we could get into more detail on that, perhaps next time, or I think that would be great. I doubt that anybody thinks that it's not a good idea to have the column out there. I'm not sure if there's any deadlines coming up for the first one. It sounded like you all had a couple of things sort of ready to go and that we're looking for input in the future. By all means, if anybody is opposed to that notion, but we can hear about that now. My take would be, let's just formalize the schedule of it a little bit and folks will sign up.
And then the other two ideas too, do you want us to do the same, like about the Climate Action Committee making a sculpture for the upcycle and you know, in town where people can engage and see it, and also having conversations like at Copperfields. Do you want us to do the same thing there? Do you want us to write it up, or do you want to do a show of hands? What do you want to do?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess a question I have for the outreach and education group is initially that was one of the larger groups, the working groups, sort of 5 or 6 people. I'm not sure if that's still the case. And wondering to what extent you all feel empowered to move forward these things versus to what extent you need input to get something to carry through, and that may change. As to whether these ideas are good ideas, they sound good to me, and other folks could weigh in as well. So it almost feels to me like event by event, be clear about what kind of support you need from us. Is it just approval, or is it also some time and energy, that sort of thing? And my feeling is that some of this stuff can be handled well in these larger meetings, and some of it is handled a little bit better on the sidelines. I'm not trying to draw any hard distinctions right now. Can we, do you have enough to go on for right now, Debbie, or is there a little bit more that you want to fix on one of these points before moving further? I also just want to have,
I would go back to Alex on that. I mean, I think, I'll talk to Carrie off of the big meeting just to understanding what we need the buy-in from because we feel like we need to run everything through you guys and we can't move forward with anything. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And I would go back to Alex for if there's anything else he needs. But the one thing I will say is our idea about the Climate Action Committee making a sculpture together for the, that is something we would need buy-in from the larger group.
Right. Fair. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can work with you guys on the sidelines to get everything else ironed out. I think we're good for now. We'll come back with you a 1-page document for the news column for the Sebastopol Times, and we'll go from there. Anything else on the sidelines we can just email you about.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, we've got another 15 minutes. I kind of want to see if there's anything else on the floor. If we have time, we can maybe come back to that again as well. So I have a series of hands here. I'm not sure exactly what order everybody was in. Zeno, I know your hand has been up for a while. Just a reminder that we're in a working group reports time. So if you have something on the working group reports to offer, I know you participate. If it's a more general comment, I might ask you to hold it till we get through the working group reports.
No, I want to add to the conversation about education. So
right.
Ambrosia, she did mention one thing, that it has been very effective in the West County. And that is something Recology started doing according to Nextdoor, discussion on Nextdoor. And that was an email exchange that really attracted a lot of attention. And it was about a story where somebody was reported having looked inside the blue bin and tagged a certain blue bin that had not the right content. And that really created a lot of attention in this exchange, and people started discussing why was that, what was new, what should we do, etc. So the general point here is that the education group cannot really expect any attention to its work until it becomes controversial, right? You need to have people feel that there is something happening that they have a stake in, and climate change itself is not that thing, because it has been happening and it has not really moved the broad population yet. So can we have tagging for climate? That is kind of my question to the education group. How would you tag climate and create some more friction? Because without friction, there will be no attention and no support.
We've been working with Holly on being on Nextdoor. So we've been going through the channels to.
Yeah, but friction, that's my point. Friction. Okay. You haven't created friction yet.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure about the exact order, but I see on my screen, Lisa, Carrie, Ambrosia. Lisa?
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the articles in the Sebastopol Times idea. I love that idea. I would love to write something, and I could be ready to go pretty quick on that.
Yay!
So I think that's terrific. It's a really good way to get some very useful information in people's hands. Yeah, Copperfields, how are they going to make money off this? That's what I'm wondering. And the sculpture idea, kind of hard to imagine how that would work. So anyway, that was my first thought, was that, huh? Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Carrie?
Thank you. So this is related to the transportation group, I think. And I did get it's actually, there's a link on the agenda for MTC letter of interest on transportation electrification projects. And I just wanted to let folks know that that is due August 10th, letters of interest without a commitment. I do have an email from Sarah Gurney, and I also have one from Tor Allen with which CC the transportation group, but I just wanted to remind people of that and also thank Tor and the transportation group for putting that together for me. If I'll be looking in that and I'll be in touch if I have any questions on that. But if you have any other ideas, if you want, I can send out that letter to the full group, I think, if you want. But just let me know.
Great, thank you. Ambrosia?
This is going kind of to Debbie at the outreach group. If you move forward with the sculpture, I'm very excited about that. I have full access to the MRF, which is the multi-recovery. I can't talk. Materials recovery facility. So if there are items specifically you want me to collect for you, just send me an email and we can start a pile for you and I can deliver it.
So exciting. It may be
Yeah.
offline, you can tell me. That's like, I don't even know. I'm envisioning, but I don't even know what you're, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that. That sounds fun indeed. Jerry?
It's about transportation, and I just wanted to make a comment. Alex has done a lot of really great groundwork looking at the possibility of adding chargers in streets, off of power poles, off of light poles, etc. And he may have run into a dead end, but I just want to congratulate him on how far he got and how much work he did on investigating how that could be done at a commercial level.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate that. Well, I guess I'll share a quick update since you've queued it up for me. I am working. I just got a PG&E contact from Mary Gurley, and I'm working with Blink, the charging company. And essentially what we're trying to do is mount like a level 2 50 amp charger on utility poles, or using utility poles as kind of like the location for that. And so that's kind of the status of the project right now, where it's working to try to understand the logistics of the infrastructure is a little challenging, but once we get some feedback from PG&E, it'll be a little easier to have something to present to the city and see where we can go from there. But appreciate that. And I think that's the big transportation update that I have. Woody, do you have anything else you want to update on the transportation side?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a few things that we talked about. We met just yesterday, and the transportation committee did, myself and Alex and Zaina was there, and we had a robust discussion. And I think there are some things going to be coming forward in the next few weeks from the transportation committee. One revolving around the concept of a cyclovia that Petaluma did recently, where you shut down some streets and hand it over to people on bicycles and non-vehicles. So the cyclovia concept will be hopefully coming soon. We're also looking at moving forward on getting Sebastopol engaged on the Vision Zero effort for safety. And we talked about a number of other things. We also talked about the active transportation program survey results. So those are a few things that we're going to be still moving forward, and we absolutely haven't given up on the haven't hit a dead end on the concept of getting EV charging out in the light poles or utility poles. So working on that. Zaina, was there anything else that we missed? Oh, let me see some hands.
No, I think that's covers it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Everett, I saw your hand next.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick update on that subject. When we approved the remodel of the former Burger King site, we had requested that they include a charging space there. I don't know much about that technology, so I'm just wondering if it's not too late, someone can maybe make sure that whatever they're putting in there is appropriate, that it would be the best for our town, and they can certainly afford it. So.
All right. Sarah, I saw your hand next.
Thank you. Just quickly back to the Cyclovia event that Petaluma had. I'm already in touch with Eris Weaver and Jenny Bard from the Bicycle Coalition about talking about one for Sebastopol, and I'm thinking Alex might be interested. Tor Allen, I thought, from his bicycle interest. Woody, are you also? Anyone else like to be in that planning meeting?
I'm really excited about it, but I'm just maxed out. I don't have time to be in the planning meeting, but thanks for the invitation.
Well, I think the point is to start and see what help we need.
Yeah, that I would like to be in that planning meeting. That's the one that we brought to you from the working group. Is that what you're talking about? Having like the Taco Tuesday in Sebastopol? Or
no, this is a close the streets like they did in Petaluma. They closed the street from Walnut Park to Lucchese Park, and the bicyclists and pedestrians and strollers and skaters took over the public road.
Oh no, same.
For a period of time.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I just want to note that we are starting to run out of time here, so folks could try to stay brief and to the point as we wrap up our last couple of bits. Jerry, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just to add something, both for Avert and Carrie. Steve Brown probably can fill you guys in. I know what the zoning looks like, what our Title 17 looks like as far as the charging ports for multifamily and other facilities. At the state level in 2022 code, I went reading all of that for the REACH code study work. It's a lot more aggressive, and it may be more aggressive than what we currently have in our zoning. So you guys might talk to Steve about that and see what it looks like 2022 is going to have, and make sure we push people to go to that level instead.
Great. Thanks for the suggestion. Zeno, any final comments?
Yeah, I just fit the Cyclovia. So I'm a board member of the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition, and I was involved in the Petaluma organization, and I'm certainly interested and supportive in bringing that event to Sebastopol.
Great. Thanks for that. There's a lot of expertise in the room. It's nice. Edward, did you have something else to add, or did your points get addressed there?
I'm just telling Sarah that I can help as well.
Okay, excellent. All right, unless anybody has something to add on the working group front, we have essentially concluded that part of the agenda. Chair reports is the next bit there. In Kenna's absence, we've sort of heard how the presentation to City Council went already from City Council, as well as the update on the committee duties. And just a reminder that Kenna is coordinating the tabling at the Gravenstein Apple Fair. So please, if you have some availability that weekend to table for an hour or two, please be in contact with her and she'll try to accommodate the schedule. Our last bit here, any input from members regarding the next meeting agenda? We will be coming back to the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. But does anybody have other things that they would like to consider for the next agenda? Steve Pierce?
Actually, this was more the public comments at the end, so I don't want to step on that part. Sorry.
Go for it, Steve.
Okay. I had a question. I was a little confused on the process for the grant writing services. Is the city going to be going out to a formal RFP? Or really, kind of, what is the process that we're expecting to see? And how can we help move that along? So that might be a question directed to Carrie.
Sure. We have not determined that yet. Part of the question is what kind of grants are they? Are they specific to, are they so specific and technical in nature, like a Caltrans grant would be, that it needs to have someone with that expertise? Or are you hiring someone who's just going to be looking for grants but not able to write them because they don't have the technical expertise? It's something the city hasn't done before. And Steve, I know we do have the RFP from San Bruno or San Mateo, which that you had sent to me, and I'm passing that on to the city manager. But that is something that we're just starting to discuss as the budget is kicking in.
All right, thank you. Complicated subject. Sunali, did you have something?
Yes, if we could save some time to put on the agenda what you asked us to bring forward, so it's flushed out more, the 3 ideas that we had, to see if the committee as a whole wanted to participate.
Okay, great. So that's the education and outreach suggestions then?
Yes, please.
Certainly, can do. If you all could sort of write up handouts or for the 3 different events, that could be sort of a 1-page summary of here are 3 things we'd like to consider, just so it's a little front loaded and we're all kind of starting from the same page there. That'll really help organize the discussion. And then the other piece for O&E was the kind of the prospectus on the newsletter articles, or the newsprint articles there. And so we have essentially 1 week from today to assemble those to get them attached to the agenda. Would be the smoothest way to front load it for next time around. And I will certainly put that down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then one more thing, I appreciated what Dina mentioned about the townhouses and collecting information that we can use and share that's well rooted. And maybe we could spend some time, if there's time on the agenda, to talk about how we as a committee can compile a database, or where to draw resources from to send other people.
Sure. That's a big discussion. I think focusing towards Sarah's point that she brought up, or I'm sorry, Carrie's point that she brought up, that the city website and sustainability component is under review right now. I might suggest offhand that would be one of the best places to focus our energies. And I know also that Phoebe has already picked up a bunch of those links and dropped them to us. And so I assume that her kind of research and resources information will be very valuable with respect to that. All right, folks, I would like to honor that we are essentially out of our allotted time for the meeting. I'm just going to do a quick recap of action items for next time around, and we will adjourn. So let's see, a reminder that the general plan, the city's general plan housing element draft is up for review and comment at present and will be addressed at the next city council meeting. So particularly folks who are looking at issues like building electrification would be encouraged to step up and interject ideas and comments on that element. The website renewal very much in progress, so that would be something to connect through Carrie about ways to connect our committee outreach efforts with that process. The Woody will be reformatting the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty proposal and bringing that back to us next time around. Woody and Sarah are taking the 833 recommendation to council. Outreach and Education will come back with things on the newspaper article and proposed outreach events. And Kenna, again, is coordinating the tabling at the Gravenstein Apple Fair. I believe, unless somebody has any further questions or comments, that this concludes today's meeting. I see a couple more hands, so I want to acknowledge that before we bail. Sunali, I'm not sure if it's a new hand or an old hand, and then Dina.
It's an old hand.
Okay. Dina, something further?
Are we allowed to stay on the Zoom a few minutes after the meeting if we're interested in talking about celebrating Phoebe's last days the way we did for Jess?
Oh.
Yes, that is not
Sure.
something as a committee approval or a quorum or any public meeting issues.
Okay, if anybody would like to spend a few minutes talking about that, stay.
Okay, thanks for the invitation. Thanks everyone for being here today. Got through a good amount of business and material. Nice to see your faces and hear your voices. See you again soon.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thanks, Joshua. Good job.
Thank you all.
Can I just tell you that
The recording has stopped.
If you could just